Hold on. What's up with the feed, y'all? All right. Assalamu alaikum. Shalawama. Islam to all the Moors. I self, law, and master. Welcome to the free astrotheology course. I am Dr. Yasapa. We're going to pick it back up with the next session. For those of you who are new, we're still in our textbook is The Celestial Ship of the North by Emma Valencia Strayton. All right, published in 1927. This is the first volume of a 2-volume work. All right. Okay, page 166 is where we left off on. And we're on chapter 10. Okay, Roman numeral X, chapter 10. Also, the letter Ta in the Phoenician, Canaanite, and Tau in the Greek. This is the remix of the Tau, T-A-U, in the Greek. Okay, y'all? Interestingly enough, it appears that this horizontal line represents the celestial equinox or the equinoctial line. So at this end, it would be spring equinox, somewhere around March 22nd. At this end, it would be the fall or autumn equinox, somewhere around September 22nd. So the west gate and then the east gate. And then the vertical line here represents the solstitial line. So here would be the south celestial pole. Okay, so notice that there's no line representing the north celestial pole, because in the north celestial pole, that's where that references rather that directs people back to the original zodiac, which is the circumpolar zodiac. And in the North Pole, there is Mount Zion, Mount Meru, right, y'all? More importantly than that, Circle 7. Circle 7, the other half of the clock of destiny, right? The other half, y'all should know what I'm talking about. And then the thigh of the Great Bear, Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. Today, the thigh of the Great Bear is called the Big Dipper. Okay, Ursa Minor. So the dipper there is called the Little Dipper. In today's, nomenclature, or the way they name stuff. But importantly, the thigh of the Great Bear, the Big Dipper, represents the Great Mother Typhoon. And this, the celestial North Pole, the Great Mother Typhoon, is the mother of all beginnings, the mother of all movement, the mother of all things that have been formed from consciousness, formed from the Hermetic law of mentalism, and then, of course, later on, transformed. This is where the concept of the resurrection comes from, and reincarnation, okay? The life cycle, all of this stuff. So they left that out in the Greek Tau cross, okay? Is it clear? Now, let's go back to the two bears, Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. Remember, collectively, Clement Alexander thought it likely that the two cherubim were originally the constellations of the two bears. So the two cherubim that sit on the Ark of the Covenant. Now remember, the Great Mother Typhoon is referred to as the Ark, the Arka, the Ark of Noah. Does everyone see how the remixing has occurred? So it's the same story, just they have changed it, adjusted it, changed the names, changed the locations, right? Changed the dates, okay? And of course, because they added 30 more degrees to the 3 degrees, the sun, the moon, and the star, which are the original degrees of masonry, the Catholics came in, added 30 more, to divide and conquer. This is during the Middle Ages, to force people into the worship of Mary. Now, who is Mary? Mary is a knockoff or remix of the Great Mother Typhoon. This is what they call the Black Madonna, commonly called the Black Madonna, remixed. So when people are venerating the Black Madonna, they're giving their energy to the solar zodiac and the solar religious systems with its their what is it called, eschatology. I don't know if I'm using that correctly because I don't use that kind of terminology. With its end day prophecies, with this whole belief system, they give it energy and create it because they're giving it energy, bringing it into their consciousness, focusing on it, being scared of it, looking forward to it. They actually create these things and they attribute it to uh, 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 external God. All right. So it's really the hijacking of the workshop of the mind, because every man and woman is a former and transformer. Or today they say everybody manifests, everybody creates their own future, their own conditions, even though they don't know it. Okay, so uh, that mental faculty, that power has been hijacked. Okay, this is why they do it. All right, to make their stories, their beliefs come true by hijacking your workshop of the mind, and then you manifest it. Okay, you manifest it for them. That's why it's so important not to get all deeply involved in these crises that they create, but not just the crisis, but the BS science, the BS science that they create. I wish I could say it, but I know if I say it here, they'll take the video down. But there's so much of science, y'all, that's just outright lie. It's criminal. People should go to prison for murder. All right. But anyway, let me. So on page 7, she references the Great Mother Typhoon. She was also the Arga, a most ancient form of the ship, the ark that flooded over. I'm sorry, that floated over the celestial waters. See the Ark of Noah. Noah, right? He on the ark. He took in the animals, right, and he took in his family, and they survived. In other words, their DNA survived the cataclysmic destruction caused by water. So, according to the Solarites, these cataclysmic destructions are very often caused by water. Okay? Very often caused by water. This is where it's getting it from. So, let me explain this too. So, they're saying that it's caused by water because they have also twisted and lied about the concept of circular time. So, for example, maybe the word is not circular. Wow, what's the word? Cycles of time, cyclical time. Circles is okay, right? Actually, I kind of like circles. Cyclical time. So, for example, uh, during the solar period, the Sabian period, before there ever was a solar zodiac in any solar religions, our ancestors kept track of the time. One of the ways that we kept track of the time is by Circle 7, the location of the thigh of the Great Bear, the Big Dipper in the sky. During that time of the year, you would know where it's at and the direction the handle was pointing. You'd know what season it was. And you could also, on a 24-hour basis, you'd know what time it is. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, midnight, 2 in the morning, 2 a.m. Okay? Why? Because it's circular, cyclical time. Another way in the south would be by Sit the Dog Star. It's helical rising, signaling the flooding of the Nile. So is that signaling the flooding of the Mississippi and the Ohio River? I think is that right, y'all? The Blue and the White Nile. I haven't thought about that in a long time. Well, so why am I saying that? Because it's the North Gate. But anyway, so the ark that floated over the celestial waters. See, now we understand more about the Pope and his celestial sea, maritime admiralty law, the federal buildings uh, uh, that the U.S. corporation company has that look like ships. These are remixes, tracing all the way back to the Great Mother Typhoon, and they are claiming to have full jurisdiction over everyone. Y'all got it? Even over the DNA and being the protectors of the DNA. How can I say that? The DNA blueprints of all life. So therefore, for their reasoning is that they can alter it. Y'all see what I'm saying? So it's a cheap, disgusting kindergarten effort on behalf of these solarites and colonists. All right, to mimic or to steal the attributes of the Great Mother Typhoon. Okay, so she was also the Arca, a most ancient form of the ship, the ark that floated over the celestial waters of the abyss. So the celestial waters of the celestial sea, the deep, boundless sea of space. Okay, and this is why the Pope, the Catholic Church, says that the Pope's authority, and the Holy See. Y'all get it? That's astrological. The shiny sea. Holy means shiny, right? So the shiny celestial abyss that the Arca Noah, the celestial ship of the North celestial pole, is floating over. This is what he is saying, or what they are saying with that. Let's continue. The ark that floated over the celestial waters of the abyss, the great matrix of the universe. So, broadly speaking, the North Celestial Pole is the great matrix of the universe. Why? Because the Great Mother Typhoon is represented by the thigh of the Great Bear. So this is the Great Mother Typhoon, who who is the beginning of everything. This is how the story goes. The cause of the first revelation, the cause of space, the cause of time. Okay, y'all? But we know the Great Mother Typhoon is the Hermetic law of gender, which has two poles, feminine and masculine. Now, Set the dog star, her firstborn and only begotten son, is in the South Celestial Pole. So the North Celestial Pole is the Hermetic law of gender, feminine energy. The South Celestial Pole is a Hermetic law of gender, masculine, gender energy, masculine, gender energy. Everyone see that? So the North Pole is said to be the great matrix of the universe, the womb, broadly speaking. Okay, when we talk about the poles, the celestial poles. Now let's continue. That place of spiritual birth and rebirth. So that place of consciousness being formed into anything physical. The life cycle of it ends, and then it is transformed into something else So here we have in religion representing it as spiritual birth and rebirth. Everybody get it? And emergence into immortality. Now, emergence into immortality. So going back to the celestial North Pole. Now, if we go back to, I think I did enough. So let me, just one more sentence. Arga also means a cup, a vessel in which flowers and fruit are offered to deity. The cup that must always be curved like a ship. Flowers and fruit, sustenance, right, y'all? Sustenance. What else does it say? The Arga was the primordial mother. That means the primordial mother of all. Great Mother Typhoon, the Arga, the celestial ship of the north, is the oldest mother of us all. Okay, and so this is what's being referenced, or Noah's Ark traces back to all of this, and was called the Holy Spirit. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So the Great Mother Typhoon is called the Holy Spirit. Noah's Ark is called the Holy Spirit, traces back to the Holy Spirit. The ark that, listen now, this is the point. The ark that held the germs of all nature. Now, didn't Noah's Ark have in it all life on earth to be preserved? All right, y'all? Y'all see it? That brooded over the great abyss, the ship of the north, or ship of life, right? Noah's Ark was a ship of life. Without it, they would have perished with everybody else. That bore the germs, that's the DNA blueprint, okay? That bore the germs of all being over the vast ocean of the infinite. So, in other words, the celestial abyss, the boundless celestial ocean. She was the immaculate of supreme heaven, in which God was the ruling force. So, God in this context traces back to consciousness, which is the Hermetic law of mentalism, quote unquote. Remember, it says here, God was the ruling force. Well, mentalism is the source of the other six Hermetic laws. Mentalism is consciousness, okay, y'all? Quote unquote. When God has been called the Holy Spirit, the implication has been incorrect. The Holy Spirit was only his region or representation. See, all things have consciousness. All things have masculine and feminine gender. Okay, y'all? The second great being of the universe, the anima mundi, so that's the great mother, the great mother of nature. So let me show y'all this before we go back. Okay, pause it on the replay. Isn't it interesting that that's page 7? And this is page 8. Of course, 8 is representative of infinity. 8 can also be two circles, right? Two connected circles. Can everybody see it? All right, pause it on the replay if you need to continue. So let's go back to page 166. Okay, so Clement Alexander thought it likely that the two cherubs were originally the constellation of the two bears. They are found as solar cherubs. What does they are found as solar cherubs mean? No, they were not found as solar cherubs. Somebody changed the story. Somebody edited the story and made that in their edit, they changed the story and said that the two bears are these two cherubs. Y'all got it? So he says it's likely that the two cherubs were originally the constellations of the two bears. That's called an edit. Y'all see how very diplomatic this author is? Well, not only this author, but all of them. And just instead of saying, they deceived you, they lied. Just telling you the truth. They rewrote the story. They edited it. They are found, the two bears or the two cherubs, they are found as solar cherubs. No, they are not found. The story was edited into the solar zodiac. So they are found as solar cherubs. That's a whole other zodiac. Okay, that's a whole other zodiac. And it's new. Okay, somewhere around 4,500 or so BCE, according to them, is when the is when the solar Zolarite, when the solar zodiac um, crushed through violence, through warfare, birthright theft, defamation, slander, and libel, the Great Mother Typhoon, the circumpolar zodiac, and her son Soot, the dog star. Okay, y'all? When they tried to hide Circle 7, Clock of Destiny, Workshop of the Mind, and Natural Law, don't steal, don't harm or injure anyone. All right? Where am I? Okay. So he continues. He continues. They are found as solar cherubs at a later period as the two beetles or scarabs. Two beetles or two scarabs. Let me show an image. Hold on, y'all. So it's back. Rainy season, I think, is early, y'all. Rainy season here is early. So it looks like there's a storm. One second. All right, there's the scarab, the dung beetle. I have some information on this. If I have time, I'm going to share y'all. This is a very interesting story. Why they chose the scarab for this. So inside of this ball of dung, the beetle has its egg, and it rolls the egg up a hill. So, for example, the sun, the SUN sun, passing over the celestial equator somewhere around March 22nd of every year, and it ascends, it climbs, it ascends till it reaches its highest point in the north part of space on or around June 22nd, which is called the summer solstice. And then after the summer solstice, somewhere around June 25th, the sun, the SUN sun, begins to decline in elevation or fall all the way until it crosses below the celestial equator on or around September 22nd, which is the fall equinox or autumn equinox. Y'all see it? So it's like a hill. Okay, it's like a hill. So the dung beetle rolls its egg up the hill, which is said to mimic um, the ascent, the rise, and the fall of the sun. Do y'all, everybody see that? So this is the dung beetle. Let me see, or the scarab. Give me 1 second, okay? Let me see if I can find some more interesting stuff to make this more fun for you. So remember the two wings, right? The scarab has two wings. Hold on. Everybody see it? There's a scarab beetle with his two wings. Okay, give me one moment. Here's another image of it that I think is more commonly known. Okay. So now it's starting to look more like we know about Egypt, right? Now remember, this is the solar zodiac, not the circumpolar zodiac. So this, oh y'all, this is a remix. It's kind of sad to find this out, but it's the truth. It's kind of sad to find out that we've been had with Egypt, or at least the Egypt uh, that everybody knows about. All right, hold on. Now this is Egypt. Y'all see the scarab? I think this is more famous and what most people are familiar with Egypt. This image right here, or something like that. Everybody see it? The two wings. Keep this image in mind, okay? Keep that image in mind. Y'all see the wing scarab here? It says late period. Hello. Hi. Hello. How are you? Okay, guys. Everyone see that? Hey, y'all, when it rains in Southeast Asia, it really rains. But Vietnam is the worst. The worst is Philippines. They have that I've experienced. They have the worst rains. Okay, so now let me try to find the image of what we're talking about. Give me 1 second.
Bật bên này nhưng mình tăng nhiệt độ lên. Bật bên này nhưng mà tăng nhiệt độ lên. Đúng không? Máy kia vẫn để nhiệt độ cũ.
Everyone see that? So it's talking about the never-ending cycle of life. So that's a life cycle, right? The renewal of the day. So the renewal of the day. This corresponds to the summer solstice. And of course, the summer solstice corresponds to the North Celestial Pole in their system, but of course, that's hidden, right? And then death corresponds to the North, or the winter solstice. I'm sorry, the winter solstice corresponds with death. So that's where the whole black thing comes from, right? The black and the evil. Okay, y'all? When things die, they turn black, the rigor mortis and all of that. Okay, so this is what that's all about. All right. Fuck. That's so rude. That's just good. Oh, man. You know, one day I'm gonna tell y'all something. One day I'm going. I wish I could say it now. I don't want to do it publicly. Okay, so let's continue. So of course, the summer solstice is Cancer. The summer solstice is Cancer, okay? And then the winter solstice is Capricorn. All right? The summer solstice is Capricorn, and the winter solstice, I'm sorry, the summer solstice is Cancer. Summer solstice is Cancer. Winter solstice is Capricorn, the zodiac sign Capricorn. Okay? All right. So they were found as solar cherubs, and at a later period as the two beetles or scarabs, which formerly symbolized the zodiacal sign Cancer. The footnote reads, so copied by Russolini. These two beetles were figured in an arc, facing each other with wings outspread. So let me try to find the arc with the wings outspread. These people are so rude. They have all kind of stuff, but nothing to do with what I'm looking for. But see, what y'all have to understand is in Asia, people will do something like this instead of say something to you directly. They'll do something indirectly, hoping you will leave. You know what I mean? Because they're non-confrontational. That's pretty much the culture here. So they'll do things to like make you uncomfortable, make you frustrated, hoping that you won't confront them. Or not expecting you to confront them. But if you confront them, then they go at you from the back, right? They do things behind your back to try to make everybody hate you, to try to turn everybody against you, rather than confronting you directly. I found that to be true in almost every Southeast Asian country. And very bold and disrespectful about it. Is this it? Or did I find it? No, it's not it. Hold on. I thought I found it. Yeah, sometimes it's very difficult to find these images. So I'm getting images, but it's not the scarab. It's their idea of what an angel is. Hold on. Well, this is not it, but this is a this is an image of an ark, but it's not the scarab. But this is the remix, okay? So Moses remixes the image of the ark with the two scarabs having wings facing it like this, and then this is the remix of that in Judaism or in the Israelite story. Okay, all right. So there's no image of the scarab. Of course, they don't want that information out, right? They try to hide that as much as possible. So here's another one. If y'all can imagine this. So here's another image of the ark. Now this is a remix. Just imagine the ark instead of these two angels with wings, these two cherubim. Well, what you know as cherubs with wings. Imagine that as the two scarabs, the two beetles with wings. Okay, now the ark, of course, represents the celestial ship of the north. Inside of it is the DNA blueprints of all living things. Okay, and then these wings, the beetles or these two angels, represent the winter and the summer solstice. Y'all see it forms a line, the wings are touching. So the summer, which is representing uh, rebirth and life, and then winter representing death, destruction, and death. Everybody see that? Now that's what's really happening with the ark. Okay, so he continues. He continues, these two beetles were figured in an ark facing each other with wings outstretched. Josephus declares that Moses had seen these cherubs beneath the throne of God, which astronomically represented the North Pole, under which are the two constellations of the Great Bears. So the Great Bears were remixed into being two cherubim, and these two cherubim were remixed into being two beetles. And then later, in the Bible story with Moses, the two beetles are remixed into two uh, men with wings. Okay, all right. But you have to remember that the two bears are the celestial genetrix, or the celestial matrix, the celestial womb. Okay, the celestial womb, and everything inside of the ark. Y'all remember what we read? The germ or DNA blueprints of everything in the physical world. That would include crystals, even though people don't think crystals have consciousness and gender, but they actually do. Okay, now he continues. And by the way, the throne of God is the north celestial pole. So y'all should watch the video, I think number 32, just prior to this, or go back to page 37 or 30, 30 38 of Siembe's Clock of Destiny, Volume 2. And you'll get the reference to, page 38. Page 30. I'm not going to read it because I just did it the very last session. So read this and you're going to see that the more who stands up returns to the mindset of his ancient foremothers and forefathers, which is Circle 7, Clock of Destiny, Natural Law, Don't Steal or Don't Injure Anyone, Workshop of the Mind, Reckoning Time and Reality by the Stars, his head becomes the celestial North Pole, and the celestial North Pole is the throne of God. Right here in this paragraph. Now, do you see what they robbed you of? Do y'all see what they robbed you of? And the brainwashing has been so effective that many of our mothers call their sons, they will say the N word ain't shit. When in fact it's the exact opposite. But in the solar state of mind, in the solar zodiac and in the solar religion, according to CM Bay, the paragraph we just looked at, that more is in a dead state, civilly dead state. Also, I would add, well, let me just leave it at that. He's in a dead state with his head in Aries, okay, which is the East Gate, which of course is what? The day that the vernal or spring equinox begins around March 22nd. And if I remember correctly, at this time there was no equinoctial line. And if it did exist, it had no significance. Y'all understand? It had no significance in In other words, it wasn't represented in these stories. People didn't live their life by them. They didn't reckon time or reality by them. Okay, y'all? So what is it saying? Remember the hill, the dung beetle rolls its egg up a hill. So this is the royal ark. Let me show y'all. The spring, summer, and the hold on. Oh, so let me show y'all. So you'll see imagery like this. Y'all see the boat on the waters? Do you see the hill? That's the royal ark. The highest point would be the summer solstice. Okay? So let's see if I can find a better one. Ah, take a look at that. Do y'all see the two pillars? The two pillars are the vernal or spring equinox. The other one is the fall or autumn equinox. And y'all see the 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 uh the arc, the curved line on top. That's supposed to be the sun passing over the celestial equator on or around March 22nd, ascending all the way up until the highest point in the sky, which it achieves around June 22nd, which is called the summer solstice. And then it begins to fall, decline in elevation until it crosses below the celestial equator. Now, remember, when it crosses below the celestial equator, that means what? It crosses below. That means Jesus gets crucified, right? Jesus get crucified. And in the Christian iconography, you'll see Jesus crucified on the cross with his mother Mary in the picture, telling people that this is the fall or autumn equinox. Jesus gets crucified, not the Christ. Remember, the Christ lives. Jesus is the man, he dies. Why? Because the man falls. The life cycle: birth, maturation, decline, and then death. And of course, the death is represented by Capricorn, the winter solstice. Okay, guys? And that's what's happening here. Now, y'all see the black and white floor? The black and white floor that they're standing on, the white represents the summer, well, spring, summer to the first day of fall. And the black represents the beginning of fall, winter, and then the last day of winter. So the white tiles on the floor, these are the summer months. The kingdom of God representing enlightenment, wisdom, everything good. Luke Skywalker. And then the black represents Dark Vader, everything wicked, evil, nasty, thievery, demonic. Okay, y'all, the devil, right? Everybody understand this imagery now? And then here's another one. So I'm zooming in on the picture. So this is the picture in the background. Look at that. Everybody see it? Y'all see it's in a circle, right? Y'all see the black and white tiles? See the two pillars? Okay. All right. Give me 1 second. See if I can find something better. Hold on.
Tôi biết có ăn đồ ăn không là muốn banh cái nhà hồi trưa rồi. Giờ tôi biết một biết rồi mà muốn lên đây biết một vài từ luôn mệt lên xong lấy xong xuống mình giữ xong ăn nó ngon. Nó có nồng cái chữa phải. Để ăn con một cái cũng không.
So y'all take a look. Look at the imagery here. So give me 1 second. Let me zoom it in. Now, do y'all see the arc? Everybody see the arc? Everyone see the sun? The rainbow is representing the sun ascending. The triangle with the G is the summer solstice. So this is the kingdom of God. Okay, the royal arc. In other words, these are the months of the year where the sun dominates. There's 12 or more hours of daylight every day between March 22nd or thereabout and September 22nd and thereabout. So the sun is dominating. The G is representing grammar. Okay, the triangle is representing the geometry. Remember we talked about circles and triangles. Y'all remember all of that in the sessions that we did on the origin of the concept of God. All right. Okay. All right. So I think that's enough for that. Let's continue. There's just so much in this one paragraph, y'all. I mean, we can stay on this one paragraph for a whole month. But what I would really like for you to keep in mind is that the more who returns to the mindset of his or her ancient foremothers and forefathers, as the Prophet Noble Drew Ali told us to do, had nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with dogmatic religion whatsoever. When that more stands up, meaning he leaves the solar right system, solar zodiac, solar religions, all of them, leaves them, abandons them, escapes, run. My when I was coming up, uh, well, I guess my cousin's mother. We found out later that this girl is my cousin, our cousin. Her mother used to always say, "Help! I need some help." Her name was Janice Bonaparte. Well, everybody called her Janice Bonaparte. I don't know why Bonaparte, but Jan was so funny. I need some help. Calling for help. I must have been 16 years old, 17. Those were fun times. Okay, anyway, so what I would like for you to remember is that when you stand up, you reckon time and reality by Circle 7, science. Clock of Destiny, science. Workshop of the Mind, science. And actually, y'all, it is the workshop of the mind that does the God things through you. Of course, through your awareness of it and through your willingness to use it, to persist with it, to develop your faculty of imagination, your faculty of visualization, and your ability to feel how you want to feel. Your ability to control when you enter into the sleep state and when you wake up. Your ability to control what you think about, not just all day long. Forget about that. Let's narrow it down. Your ability to control what you think about when you are about to go to sleep, and what's on your mind when you exit the wake state and enter the sleep state. That space between y'all, your ability to get in there and then willfully control what you're seeing, the imagery, and feeling. This is the workshop of the mind. And this is what has been hijacked. This is one of the purposes or functions, the abusive functions of advertising, subliminal messages, prayer. Yeah, prayer can be working against you. You can be praying all you want and working against you. Why? All right, well, here's why. And I know all about this from experience. Let's say you have a guilty conscience, something that you were involved in directly, indirectly, responsible for, not responsible for, but whatever the reason you feel guilty about it. You feel that your relationship with the deity is compromised. And you pray. And you pray about the matter. Not just once, but you pray for forgiveness. You feel sad. You go to bed feeling sad, regretting what you did. Well, guess what? The workshop of your mind has been hijacked. And now you're going to produce more of that negative stuff that you don't want from other people, coming to you or at you from others and within yourself. Okay? So maybe now you're having even more mental anguish or more compulsive behavior to do something that you don't want to do. Why? Because you're using your workshop of the mind or your, let's call it God faculty, connotatively God faculty, you're using it in a way that's actually disempowering and self-destructive. And you have no clue what has been done to you. But you best believe they do. This is why they put out this very violent, what they're calling music, hip hop music, that whole gangster rap thing back in the day. The whole church stuff. All of this is very toxic, y'all. And because you don't know about this, you think it's innocent or, doesn't, and you F up your life and F up everybody's life around you. Right? And you wonder why. Why you pray, why you do all the things you should do, but yet all you get are results and experiences that you don't want. Okay, y'all? So anyway, let's continue. So when the Moor returns to the mindset of his ancient foremothers and forefathers, his head represents the North Pole, which is the throne of God. You're sitting on the throne of God. Who sits on the throne of God if not God? So remember, let me say this. And then in the South, these are the principles. The Moors' feet represent the South Celestial Pole, which are the principles: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Or stated another way, don't steal. Right? Don't steal. The big thing we have to deal with right now is theft of due process of law, which has been stolen from us, right? Along with the rest of the birthrights. But some other women, some women have experienced theft of their right to decide who they're going to lay down with or who they're going to live their lives with. So y'all should go to Mark Passio's YouTube, search Mark Passio. Watch his videos, study his work on natural law. All right. Study his videos on natural law. Nobody does a better job on that topic than Mark Passio. All right. So let's continue. And I mean that. Y'all should study all of his work. Uh, okay. So Josephus declares that Moses had seen these cherubs beneath the throne of God. That's the North Celestial Pole, which is astronomically represented as the North Pole, North Celestial Pole, under which are two constellations of bears, of the bears rather. The beetles were the transformers. So remember the uh, the law, first law is the first. Second law of thermodynamics: energy cannot be created or destroyed. That means it always has been. No beginning, no end. Energy, consciousness, awareness, consciousness has no beginning and no end. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. These beetles were the transformers. So the Great Mother Typhoon, the Hermetic law of gender in its feminine role or function, forms things from consciousness. They go through a period of formation, birth, maturation, death, life cycle, and then at the physical death, they are transformed into something else. Okay? That's what that's talking about. And furthermore, the according to the solar rites, the solar zodiac. So these souls, SOULS, would enter into the physical universe in Cancer, the summer solstice. Okay? Enter into the earth plane through Cancer, the summer solstice, interact with soil and become enclosed in flesh. Birth, maturation, death, and then exit the earth plane through the winter solstice, which is Capricorn. Okay, y'all? That's the significance of what's happening here. So let's continue. The Beatles were transformers. There was a quote unquote gate that opened one way for the descent of the SUN sun. Now remember, the SUN sun is the SOL, soul in Latin. So SOL means SUN. SOL is Latin. So what did the Catholic Church do? They put in a vowel, a U after the O. So now instead of SOL, they edited it, they changed it, they wrote SOUL. And then they said, you have a SOUL that survives death and goes to heaven or hell, depending on whether or not you obey their doctrine. If you obey their doctrine, you get rewarded with going to heaven. If you don't obey their doctrine, you get punished and go to hell and burn for eternity. In the JW religion, you die and all memory, all consciousness of you is gone. You are no longer in existence. So this entering into the earth plane is through the summer solstice, okay, which is corresponding to the North Celestial Pole. Why corresponding to the North Celestial Pole? Because the North Celestial Pole, remember, broadly speaking, is, let's go back to page 7. The North Celestial Pole is, broadly speaking, what? That place of spiritual birth and rebirth and emergence into immortality. So when the soul expires in the earth plane, it exits the earth plane through Capricorn and then goes back up north where it came from, the North Celestial Pole. Everybody see it, how this is working out, how they just changed the names, changed the places, but it's the same story. Okay, y'all? And that's why there's power in it. Because they know you don't. And most of us have made no effort, have not questioned or challenged the solar zodiac or the solar religions. So you are consenting to be there, right? And because you give your thought and energy to it, mental and physical energy to it, you, through the abusive use of the Hermetic law of gender, the cuckoo bird egg phenomena, you bring these things into being. That's why they do these massive TV campaigns, media campaigns, to get people to believe certain things so that they can harness the masses of people's consciousness to get them to produce a reality or phenomena that they want. Okay? And they have you doing it. So you don't realize that you are being warred against. You have no idea that you are being warred against, that you are colonized in your mind and don't know it. Now remember the cuckoo bird egg phenomena tells us that the man or woman is acting, being, has a personality and habits that are not his or her own, although you think they're your own. This is the cuckoo bird egg phenomena, the Hermetic law of gender, the abusive use of it. Okay. The abusive use, the predatorial use of the Hermetic law of gender. Okay, the cuckoo bird egg phenomenon. So he continues. There was a gate that opened one way for the descent of the SUN sun. Now remember, SUN sun is the SOL sun, is the SON sun. Is it clear? So the consciousness coming from the second star in the handle of the Big Dipper, or the second star in the tail of the Great Bear, Mitzar, that consciousness, that thought, moves from Mitzar through the Dipper, the four stars, the four corners. Now remember, the four corners of a writ, of a lawful or legal document, traced back to the four corners of the universe, north, south, east, and west, in the solar system, solar zodiac, and that traces back to the four corners of the Big Dipper, the Dipper part of the Big Dipper, also the circle of the universe, okay? Or broadly speaking, it traces back to the celestial North Pole. But anyway, so the thought, so Noble Drew Ali tells us, thought, man is thought made manifest from the soil. So the thought originating from Mitzar, which is consciousness, okay? Thought is consciousness. Thought is the function or activity of the mind. The first Hermetic law is a law of mentalism. Mind. 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 The mind is active, so that's thought, right? They're irritating me so much. Um, so anyway, the thought passes through the four corners, or the four stars that make up the Dipper of the Big Dipper, enters into the earth plane, the physical realm, interacts with soil, and the thought becomes encased or enclosed in flesh through its interaction with the soil. Okay, so now this is where another reason why they use the beetle in the solar zodiac, because the beetle takes its egg, rolls it in dung. So now the egg becomes encased or enclosed in the dung. Y'all see it? And it rolls up the hill and then down the hill. So the rise and the fall of sun, the birth and death, okay, or the life cycle. Clear? Birth and rebirth, right? So birth, death, and then birth again, rebirth. Okay, y'all? That's what's happening here. And afterwards, of the souls of the earth, the lower two regions, the other way being the outlet to the land of eternal birth. So the outlet of the earth plane is again winter solstice, Capricorn, the zodiac sign Capricorn, in the astrological phase of the celestial imagery. So this is taken from Gerald Massey, A Book of the Beginnings, Volume 2, page 310. I have a lot of stuff on this I'm going to share with y'all. I just didn't have a chance to do it. Not yet. All right, now finally we can get off of page 166. Last paragraph on page 166. By tracing back history to its starry Sabian origins, one is sure to find a safe original anchorage. Now, here's something interesting. If you try to find the Sabian period in, y'all just Google search it. Google search Sabian period or Sabian time. They're going to misrepresent the Sabian period. They're going to pretend like it's Arabs somewhere around I think 1,000, between less than 2,000, between 2,000 and 1,000 BCE, which is the solar zodiac period. Okay, y'all. So they do a lot of intentional lying, intentional deception to keep you away from the Sabian period. If you get to the Sabian period, now you get to the circumpolar zodiac, the Great Mother Typhoon, so on, and her son Soot, so on and so forth. Okay, you get back to the real stuff, or as Bobby Hemmett says, you get the real zodiac. And Bobby Hemmett even says that the current zodiac is BS. He used bullshit, right? Yeah, I was so shocked when I found videos of Bobby Hemmett. And before, I never really listened to Bobby Hemmett because I'm not I'm not into the stuff that he was talking about. As far as the gods and all of that stuff, libations to all those gods and Egyptian gods and all of that stuff. But for some reason, for whatever reason, I just happened to start listening to some of his stuff, and I started hearing him talk about uh, the Sabian period, the first zodiac. It blew me away. Totally blew me away. I wish I was able to talk to him. I've heard rumors that he passed away. I don't know if it's true. He might still be here, but just don't want to talk to anybody. Might be frustrated, or just burned out because people didn't support him. You get tired. Let me tell you, this stuff makes you tired. It really makes you tired. It takes a lot of energy to do this. And it's, for the most part, thankless work, right? And people even demand stuff from you, have expectations from you, but they ain't contributing nothing, not you know. But anyway, that's another whole other thing. So all astronomical myths began with the dark or night, the primal Typhonian cults, originating in that wonderful birthplace, the celestial north. Y'all hear that? So the dark, the night. So let's just go back and make a connection so y'all can uh, make this connection. On page 9, 9 of course represents feminine energy. The 9 is the womb. The line going down is the vaginal canal rather. Okay, so this says she has been imaged as intensely black, her bosom bare, crowned with a golden pyramid. Now remember, she has the fruit, right? Remember page 7, the flowers and the fruit. Okay, and remember in the imagery that we saw a triangle or a pyramid, right? Y'all remember that, the Masonic imagery that we looked at a little while ago? Y'all saw the pyramid, about which twined an immense serpent. So that's the serpent that you see, the symbol for medicine. They hijacked that, right? Medicine, keep you healthy, alive. This is a great mother typhoon. Okay, so about which twined an immense serpent. Night and darkness belongs as symbols to very great antiquity. An abundance of darkness, metaphysically, is light. Darkness adopted illumination in order to make itself visible. In other words, celestial bodies like the stars reflect dark rays, and we perceive it as sunlight. That quote was taken from Robert Flood. All right. So let's go back. Page. Oh, okay. So all of the solar religious mythology. Let me repeat that. All Christian doctrine, all Christian uh, dogmatic religious doctrines trace back to solar mythology. The solar mythology traces back to the circumpolar zodiac or the Sabian period. Everybody got that? So let's continue. Trace back to the Great Mother Typhoon and her son Sith. All right. The North Celestial Pole. The North Celestial Pole. In Inner Africa, the symbols and types of the primordial Typhonian cult still remain extant in primitive form. As they obtained, listen, y'all, as they obtained, in other words, they were created, they were conceived of from the mind, right? You know how we used to say it, from the mind. How does it go? From there's a famous idiom. Anyway, so these were conceived and then made into realities. Produced in physical form. So coming from the darkness, of course, the mind is darkness, right? Close your eyes, turn off the lights. You'll see it's complete. It's pitch black consciousness. All right, y'all. Listen. In Inner Africa, the symbols and types of the primordial Typhonian cult, for example, the circle, remember the circle, pi, the circumference, the area, the geometry, with the algebra, the geometry, the triangle, the uh, the law of polarity, the law of opposites. Y'all remember that? The law of equilibrium. Remember we covered that in those videos about the concept, the original concept of God. The hippopotamus being one of the earliest representations of the Great Mother, Typhoon. This is what he's talking about. So in Inner Africa, the symbols, the celestial ship of the North, the symbols and types, right? The Great Mother Typhoon is imaged as intensely black, pitch black, absolute darkness. Okay? So in Inner Africa, the symbols and types of the primordial Typhonian cult still remain extant in primitive form. So these are before the Egypt that gets all of the news and TV and archaeology and courses in the universities. As they obtained, as they were created, as they were conceived of and written, right? Or, artifacts made previous or before, previous to the immigration down the valley of the Nile. So before our ancient ancestors went down the valley of the Nile and created Egyptian civilization, this stuff was already existing. So that's why Dr. Clark says that Egypt is the flower of the civilizations that existed before it. They got their knowledge by inheritance. They didn't make that stuff up. They inherited it from the inner African land masses, the people who were in those lands. But of course, Africa, when he was talking about Africa, of course, Africa is the Americas. Africa is America. Let me put it like that. Africa is America. The mapping out of the heavens, the measuring of time, and the revolution of the stars were conceived by the ancients for purposes that when did they conceive it? They conceived it long before the people traveled down the Nile Valley and built Egypt. This is what the author is telling us. They were conceived by the ancient for purposes of practical usage. Practical usage means what? Reckoning time and reality by the stars. Not for dogmatic religious purposes, not to worship some external deity. And guidance and guidance. It says here human guidance. Of course, human is Han Uman. So I'm going to correct the author and say man, because a human is Han Uman, which is Genesis chapter 1, the created creature, that the Elohim, who are Moors, in my opinion, that would be Yaqub and his 12 feminine scientists, who, through genetic engineering experimentation, y'all read this in Clock of Destiny by C.M. Bay, created the Han Uman, who is a human, who is Neanderthal, who is the Paleolithic caveman, who is a troglodyte nigger. Their observations became facts and were recorded in their astronomical mythology. They observed and connoted with great accuracy the motions of the SUN sun, moon, and stars. So these are the 3 degrees of masonry, not Freemasonry, masonry. So this is what the author of um, the, astro- the astrology of the New Testament, the lost word regain, referred to when he said masonry initially and still only has 3 degrees: sun, moon, and stars. The Catholics made up the other 30 to get people into the worship of Mary, which is what, y'all? The solar zodiac and its solar religions. That's why they made up the 30. In the biblical Genesis, we are told of divine creations, and that when they were accomplished, the Elohim, man is thought made manifest from the soil. Man is the Elohim, y'all. And when they were, in other words, Moors, Moors are the Elohim, the only supreme beings that C.M. Bay referred to in Clock of Destiny. And when they were accomplished, the Elohim saw that everything was created good. Who were the Elohim? Mythological astronomy will tell us. They were the watchers in heaven, the 7 sons or stars of the Great Mother. So these 7 sons are stars. These are the stars that make up the configuration of the Big Dipper. Let me show y'all. All right, y'all. Sorry. So wake job. Oh, wait. I almost forgot what I was doing. So, uh, okay. So here, all right, here we are. So y'all take a look at this. So you see the North Star is very close to the north. Is very near the North Celestial Pole. So this is the Big Dipper. All right, and you can tell the season and the time of day on 24-hour basis by this. So these seven stars that make up the Big Dipper, these are the seven suns. Okay, these are the seven suns that the author is talking about. The seven suns are the seven stars that make up the Big Dipper. All right, so now y'all see it, it makes a circle, right? Circle seven. Now do y'all see it? Circle seven, everyone see that? All right. So this is how time was conceived and reality uh, was reckoned right here. Great Mother Typhoon. Oh, shoot. Y'all, give me 1 second.
em biết em chơi cái đó biết số này là ông nó đáng nhiều mà ông đang biết trên di động thử luôn em biết cái ta cháo mình chỉ dạng hẳn đâu thôi chưa qua chứ nói gì chứ có cũng cá cũng chút chữ cùng Dạ, anh này phải ra ăn con có ngày bữa nay thì ngày mai bị bệnh ngủ bệnh như con con hay con bệnh mạnh không chữa kịp rồi nó đi viêm cái
All right, y'all. Sorry, I'm back. Oh my gosh, sorry about that. I hope are we still live? Is the signal still? Let me check the signal. Give me 1 second, y'all. My apologies, but I had an urgent situation, and it's all good now. Let me check to see if I'm still live. Give me 1 second, y'all. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check. Mic check, mic check. What's going on? Mic check, mic check. Let's see.
About 10 years ago, we launched the first and most widely used stablecoin, enabling over 400 million people
Oh my gosh, wait a minute.
access to dollars instantly. But Tether is more than a stablecoin. It's a mission
Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. All right. All right. Very good. So now I know I can move between between apps when I'm uh when I'm uh when I'm in this app. So all right. So something good came from that. I had no choice but to switch, but now I see I'm still able to still live. All right, all right, all right. But unfortunately, of course, YouTube didn't notify me. Okay, y'all. So we're back on page 167. 1 plus 6 is 7 plus 7 is 14. 1 plus 4 is 1 plus 4 is 5, and 5 is a very significant number. And we'll get back to that. We'll get back to number 5. Um, let me continue. We'll get back to number 5. So there were also the 7 great architects of the world. The 7 great architects of the world. Now we see in the solar system, we see Hiram Abiff, who's the architect, right? But in the uh, polar zodiac, Great Mother Typhoon, of the Great Bear, the 7 suns, 7 stars, they are the 7 architects of the world. Generators of men. Okay, these sons are progenitors of man. Remember, this is the north, so it is the celestial womb. And by their periodic revolutions, heaven and earth, the upper and lower, night and day, Mike Chuck.
Em là biết đâu em những ông ngoại chơi mà đi với má này.
Mike check, Mike check, Mike check, Mike check, Mike check. All right, y'all. I don't know if I'm still live. I was cut off. Give me 1 second. Mic check, mic check, mic check. I was cut off. I don't know if it's back up. Give me a second. There's a delay. Oh, I don't know when I'm in this app. So all right. So something good came. I had no choice but to switch. But now I see I'm still able to live. So yeah, YouTube didn't give me notification. Mic check, mic check, mic check. So yeah, YouTube didn't. So yeah, let me see. I'm doing this to check to see if I'm still live. Hold on, y'all. Okay, I'm still live. All right, still live. All right. Okay, so they cut me off, y'all. Let me say this again. Let me say this again. In the solar system, Hiram Abiff is the great architect, right? In the circumpolar zodiac, each star that makes up the thigh of the Great Bear is an architect. Okay, they were the watchers, the stars, the Elohim were the watchers, the seven sons, or the seven stars of the Great Mother. They were also the seven great architects of the world, progenitors of man, and by their periodic revolutions, heaven and earth. Now remember, this is mythology. The upper and lower, light, the upper and lower, night and day, darkness and night, that's a cycle, right? Were created. Were created. So these seven sons, these seven Elohim, were involved in that creation. Now, this is what we see in Genesis chapter 1, right? From verse 1 through the first 20 something verses. Okay? This is why it's talking about light and day. Okay? But let's continue. It says here, wisdom, but let me emphasize this. In the solar system, Hiram Abiff is the great architect. In the circumpolar zodiac, each of those seven sons who were the seven Elohim, who were the seven watchers in heaven, were all architects involved in, or were the architects of the world, the builders, right? Now you have to keep in mind, this is the North Celestial Pole. So this is the Great Mother Typhoon, right? You remember. And it is inside of the woman where sons and sons with the womb are built, not using hammers or nails or anything else. Everybody get it? The great architect. All right. So let's continue. Quote unquote. I got that from Seton Bay in Clock of Destiny. Wisdom has builded her house. She hath hewn out her seven pillars. This is coming from Proverbs chapter 9. 9, of course, is the feminine gender. Verse 1. All right. And her foundations were laid by those seven great stars. See, this is what? Masculine and feminine energies. By those seven great stars that were first noticed encircling the pole. I just showed y'all the image of those first stars encircling the pole, right? Everyone remembers what those look like? So let me pull it back up. I don't know why people are so rude. Do y'all see that? These are the seven stars circling the pole. All right. The watchers, the seven great watchers, the seven Elohim. All right. Okay, so Proverbs chapter 9, verse 1, and her foundations were laid by those seven stars, those seven great stars that were first noticed encircling the pole. Now remember, the Holy Spirit is the great mother typhoon, the Hermetic law of gender. The Egyptian word for create is, let me spell this, CER hyphen AT, Kerat. Ker, K-E-R, means a curve, and at, the A-T, K-E-R means a curve, and at, A-T, means a circle. Now remember, a curve, if you go back to page 7 and 8, she was also called Arga, okay? The most ancient form of a ship, an ark. Page, uh, Arga also means a cup. Page 8, a vessel in which flowers and fruit are offered to deity. The cup must always be curved like a ship. Okay? And here's page 7. Y'all remember that, right? Okay, so let's continue. So that's the curve, K-E-R. And at A-T means a circle. We already went through the circle, circle 7. We went through the algebra of it. We went through pi, describing the circumference and the radius, right? We went through radius, diameter. We went through all of the um, descriptions of a circle and how the circle was by the Solarites uh, remixed into external gods. Okay, so at, that's very interesting, isn't it? At means a circle, and quote unquote, by the circle of time was curved. Isn't that interesting? By the circle, by the circle of time was curved, carved, and created. That's a tongue twister. I have to do that again. Y'all bear with me. Curve, K-E-R means a curve, and at means a circle, and by quote unquote, and quote unquote, by the circle of time was curved. And by the circle, so time is cyclical, right, y'all? This is what it's saying. Time is cyclical. By the circle of time was curved. Carved, like you carve a cake, or carve a turkey. Carved and created the heaven of symbolism. End quote. The earliest circle makers were the seven stars, the Elohim, who founded the first celestial chart of phenomena. So, Morris, do you know who you are now? Do you know who you are? Why would you want to be in bondage? Why would you want to be a servant, or as they say, a servant of God, to paraphrase? Why would you want to be a servant when you can sit on the throne of God simply by returning to the mindset of your ancient foremothers and forefathers? Which is the better position to be in? Now, I know you have been taught that humility, submission to God, and all of this stuff, you've been taught that that's something really good and wonderful and all of that. But really, that's not who you are. See, you're not the subject. You're the sovereign. If you are a Aboriginal, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, man or woman, if you are a Moor. The servants, the subjects, are the hybrids and everything else. All right. Now that's the reality. Now, if you can't deal with that, guess what? You're a little bit cray cray. You're a little bit cray cray. You're not dealing well with reality. Right? That's what crazy is. But of course, there's a period where you go through cognitive dissonance because this is so totally different from what you have been indoctrinated, enculturated, and educated, and blah 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 blah, to believe in what you thought you knew. So it's quite normal to undergo cognitive dissonance, but it's not normal to stay there, to deny the reality. This is why a Moor can never be a Christian. All right, y'all. I think I need to stop this video because they're playing the music, and YouTube will definitely, if they're not listening to rights free, what is it called? Rights free music. YouTube will definitely take the video down, and let me end it. So did I finish? Yeah, we'll pick this back up on page 167 at the last paragraph. Um, I don't know why people. Anyway, y'all. Assalamu alaikum. Appreciate y'all sharing your time with me. I hope you learned something. Hope you benefited. Assalamu alaikum. I self law and master Shalawama. See y'all on the next one.